Audio Jungle.
Bit long, so I will be covered a brief part of this Oracle Dataguard. So, introduction to Dataguard. So, like we will be discussing about what exactly is Dataguard. Okay, what are its advantages over other various technologies. Hello. What are its protection modes? Like we'll be discussing various protection modes of this Oracle data guard. Different types of standby database like physical standby, logical snapshot. Okay. Difference between 10G and 11G standby databases. Okay. FSFO, that is fast start failover, switchover, like how we can perform a switchover, and what are the prerequisites for failover. Okay, like snapshot standby. So like in 11G, what all the new features have been introduced in 11G data guard. Okay, gap resolution, if there is any gap between primary and standby, so how to resolve it. Okay, so this all the things we'll be discussing it, like automatic file, RMAN. So what is this? How to resolve this gap resolution? We can resolve it either through RMAN or manually. Okay, active data guard. So this we'll be discussing in this 11G data guard, and a bit about the tuning and troubleshooting issues. So moving on to the next slide. So what is exactly this data guard? Okay, so as you can see, we have two sides, that is primary and the standby side. Uh, in the primary standby database, users are basically connected to our main primary database. If there is any disaster happen, so there should not be any data loss. Okay, and moreover, if there is any if there will be any disaster happen, so obviously the data will get moved over to the standby side. So we will be having a data availability and data protection mode using this site. So what it is doing, the like primary site, suppose that we have a primary site at Delhi and standby site at Chennai. So in means two sites we are having a different location. So whatever the changes that are going to happen at the primary site, it will automatically get reflected at the standby site. So how many standby databases we can configure? That in 11G we can, I think, configure more than 20 standby databases. This is a little bit old slide. Okay, use standby database for queries. We can in 11G we can open the standby database also in read-only mode, and these standby databases can be used only for the reporting purpose or query purpose, because we cannot open it for the read-write purpose. So that's why we can only open it for the reporting purpose only. So here, so what we can do, we can also divert some of the connection to the standby side, so that there will be a minimal load at the standby side if we are generating primary side, if we are generating a heavy reporting. Okay, so we can use the standby side for reporting purpose also. In 11G, we have one feature, that is active data guard, that we'll be discussing later on. So we'll be discussing on what exactly is the active data guard. So in brief, data guard is basically used for data availability and data protection mode. Moving to the next slide, data guard helps you to protect your data, like takes your data and automatically puts it elsewhere. Like in the previous slides, we are seeing that the changes is happening at the primary site, and it automatically gets reflected into the standby site. So making it available for failover in case of disaster happens. Like suppose that if there is any disaster happens, like suppose that if there is any flood happen in the Delhi, so our primary site will automatically get failover to the standby site. Okay, means we can perform a failover to the standby site. Or suppose that if there is any power disruptions happen due to that, or if there is any problem happen in the server, so we can fail over to the standby site, and users will automatically get connected to the DR site. So the other capabilities are pure bonus, switch over for maintenance. Suppose that if you wanted to perform any patching at the primary site, okay, you wanted to perform a patching, so obviously we need downtime. So what we can do, in order to avoid this, we can like perform a switchover for primary to a standby, like from Delhi to Chennai. Okay, now when we performing a switchover, so role will be switched from primary to the standby. So like in previous part, like the in Chennai we were having a DR side, but now it will be acting as a primary side in the Chennai after performing a switchover. So we will apply a patch on the first DR side, and then again we will perform a switchover. Then we can perform a patch on another side. So like this, we can use it for a maintenance purpose. Reporting, like I've already mentioned, like we can use the DR side for the reporting purpose also. Offloading queries, if we are generating, if we are using heavy queries, okay, so what we can do, we can use DR site for using those heavy queries. Backups, obviously backups, if we will be taking a backup, so obviously it will, a performance will definitely get impacted uh, when users are performing any operations, or in the business time, if backups are running, so obviously performance will get impacted. In order to avoid this, we can also take a backup at the standby site for the primary database. Moving to the next slide, like we can use, like Dataguard comprises of two parts: redo apply and SQL apply. So in layman terms, we have mainly two types of standby databases: physical and the logical standby databases. So the question is arising, how the data basically travels from one location to another, and how data gets applied to the standby database. So one, like we can apply the database using this redo apply. So redo apply means it maintains a physical block for block copy of the production, that is called as a physical standby database. Means in the physical standby database, we have a same replica of on a block to block basis. Means whatever the block we will be having as a primary side, it will automatically get applied at the standby side. Whereas in the SQL applied, it maintains a logical transaction for transaction copy of the production database. Means it will first the logs get first converted into the SQL, then SQL get applied into the standby database. That is called as a logical standby database. So physical standby database uses redo apply, where the logical standby database using the SQL apply. Dataguard redo apply patch for the DR, like which it is asking, like this is the best method for the disaster recovery. Physical standby database is a block for block copy of the primary database. In simple terms, it's a pure replica of your primary database. Uses the disaster recovery functionality to apply changes, as already mentioned. Like if there is any disaster happen, then we can use, because we'll be on, means both the databases are on the same page, so we can use as for in case of any disaster recovery, we can use the physical standby data for disaster recovery. Can be open in read-only mode for reporting queries? Yes, we can use it for reporting purpose. Physical standby database can be open for the reporting purpose. Can also perform backup, like already discussed. We can use standby database for backup, and this is the best solution for the DR. Like this diagram is basically depicts the physical standby database. Like we can see, we have a primary database. Okay, over the network, the block by block will get copied to the physical standby databases. Or optionally, we can have a data guard broker also. These things we'll be discussing later. So right now I'm not touching this data guard broker part. So logical standby database, as the name suggests, it's a logical, means it's not on a block to block copy. Because block is a physical part, and the logical standby database, that's why because here in the logical standby database we are applying the SQL, so that's why it is called as a logical standby database. It is an open, independent, active database. Like it is saying, it is an independent entity as compared to the physical standby database. It contains the same logical information, means logical data will will be the same as it is having a primary data, but it will be having its own tables. Physical organization and structure are different. That's why it is different from the primary database, can host multiple schemas. As I have already told you, it can have multiple tables also. Can be queried for reporting while logs are being applied by SQL. So I already told you like what are the logs that are traversed from primary to the standby. It will first converted into the SQL, then SQL get applied into the logical standby database. We can create additional indexes, and we can have a not all data types are supported in this logical standby database. So these things we will be discussing later on. I'm just giving you a brief idea. Okay, when we will be conducting a training, so I'll be this is a PPT that have been prepared by me, but at the time of the training, I'll be using Oracle Dataguard PPTs, means Oracle Education Dataguard PPT, because using that PPTs we will be having a clarity about each and every topic. And this is just a brief introduction of this Oracle Dataguard. So moving to the next slide, protection from human errors and data corruptions. This is the physical side and the standby side. The application changes received from the family can be delayed at standby to allow for the detection of user and prevent standby can be effective. Here we have an advantage that we can uh, means we can if we want or as per the business requirement, if we want a delay of 15 minutes or 30 minutes between primary and the standby database, so we can have that business requirement also, means we can implement that requirement also in our environment. The apply process also revalidates the log records to prevent application of any log corruption. Yes, that is very true. If there is any corruption will happen, it will automatically detect it. It will automatically detect it. So what is the best requirement, whether should we go for the physical or the logical standby? So choosing physical standby database if your management simplicity is required, highest performance is required, an extra replica of primary is required for the DR purpose. Okay, standby database also serves as a QA role, that is snapshot standby role, means we can convert it to the standby database and we can perform our testing. So that's why it is saying as a quality roles. Okay, a current read-only mode for offloading your queries, for offloading your backups, protection from lost write and data type restrictions. So if any of these things, if you wanted to go for this physical standby database, so we will be having these types of options. Choose logical standby database if you wanted to open your database in read write access mode, because physical we cannot open it read write, we can only open it in the read only mode, whereas in logical we can have a read write access mode. You wish to add local table schemas, like it can have an extra schemas, extra tables also as comparison to the physical standby database. So moving to the next slide, okay. So I'll be let me give you a brief introduction about how this gap resolution basically happens. So we can see here we have a primary database and here we have a standby database. So here we were talking about the physical standby database. So just forget about the logical standby database. So we are discussing about the gap resolution. Gap resolution means if you are applying an XYZ, if an XYZ logs have been generated at the primary side, so it should automatically get applied to the standby side. So here what it is saying, like transaction are basically happening at the primary side. Okay, so obviously whatever the transaction is happening at the primary side, it will get logged into the redo buffer. Okay, and log writer will generate the archive logs from the online logs. Okay, so and it will generate the archive redo logs. So here we will be having a main background process, that is a LNS, that is log writer network services. Okay, so here we have an option of using sync or async method. So in the sync method, it will be in synchronous mode. Okay, so whatever the transaction is happening at the primary side, LNS process detected from the redo buffer. Okay, pull the data from the redo buffer. Okay, and transfer those particular data over the network. Okay, over the Oracle Net Services, and the RFS process that are running at the standby side, it will pick those particular data that have been transferred from the LNS, and it will get applied into the standby redo logs, and the archive logs get generated, and it will apply at the standby side. Now let's suppose that if you are using the async, or like the archive logs have been generated, so here we have an archive process that keeps on pinging to the RFS process that is running on the another standby side. If there is any archive log that have not been traversed to the standby side, so it will transfer those particular archive logs to the standby side, and after transferring those RFS, that is remote file server picks those particular archive log from the primary, and it will get applied into the standby side. So here we have main two background processes, that is RFS LNS, okay, for picking and transferring the logs. And we have another background process that is called as MRP, that is managed recovery process. MRP process is basically applying. So the apply operation is basically done by the MRP process at the standby side. And RFS, in simple terms, like the name suggests, remote file server. Remote file server means uh, 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 whatever the data or log that have been received from the primary database, it will receive those remote file server receive those particular data and will apply at the standby side. Means not applied, it will receive those particular data. Okay. So like in the notes also you can see, when the log writer archive process on the primary database initiates a connection with the standby listener responds by spawning. Spawning means creating a process called the remote file server. So the whole explanation is basically given in here, standby redo logs, and it is also explaining the advantages of using of this standby redo log. The standby redo log will only be used if you are using the sync method. If we are using a sync method, then we need to have a standby redo log, otherwise you won't be able to use the sync. Moving to the next slide, this slide I think I won't be able to cover in this demo session, so let me give you a brief discussion like how to starting and stopping the recovery process. Like I already told you, like MRP process is the main process, that is managed recovery process to for like applying the logs into the standby database. So the command is alter database recover manage standby database disconnect from session. So here we can see like alter database recover manage standby database disconnect from session. This is the command to start the MRP process. As soon as the MRP process gets started, the logs that have been received at the standby side will get applied at the standby side. And there is an like sequence of starting the standby database in 10G or 10G earlier. Like in earlier we cannot means directly means mount the database. In 9i we generally use, first we use startup no mount stage, then we mount using alter database mount standby database. Then it will mount the standby database. Then we can start the apply process. This command also we can run in LaminG also, but in LaminG also we can directly run startup mount also, and it will automatically standby database automatically get mounted in the standby database. If you wanted to cancel the MRP process, so command is alter database recover manage standby database cancel. So this is the command to cancel the MRP process. If you wanted to see like what all the processes that are running, we can see select process status when we go to manage standby. Okay, so it will show like what all the processes that are running right now. So like I already discussed, like we can use these things for like switch over. If you wanted to perform a switch over, like you wanted to you have a primary running in the Delhi and standby running at the uh, 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 Chennai, and you wanted to perform a switch over. Switch over means you want a role conversion. Role conversion means the site that is running, DR site that is running in the Chennai, you wanted to be used as Chennai site as a primary site and Delhi site as a DR site. So there is a one command if you are using DG broker, simple one command switch over to the site name. Okay, so role automatically role automatically gets switched over from one role to the another role. Or we can use the manual method also. So this is a brief introduction about this Oracle Dataguard. I think as such the topic is very vast, I cannot cover it and finish it in the 15 minutes. And as already discussed, I will be going to use, I'm not going to use this particular slide where I'll be going to use Oracle Dataguard slide at the time of the training, imparting training. So we'll be using all these slides of Oracle Dataguard so that we'll be having a better idea about the Oracle Dataguard and its architecture, like physical standby redo apply. Then we'll be discussing how to create a physical standby database and logical standby database. So I'll be using this Oracle Dataguard slides only. So that's it from my part.
Yeah, yeah, Lokesh, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
continue.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah.